Hi, it's the A to Z Podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. Give us a like over there. Spread the love. We appreciate it. This thing has grown over the last couple of years because of you guys, and we appreciate everyone listening and tweeting and sharing and telling a friend. Cleveland Scene, the Honeymoon Grill, and American Fireworks are our sponsors. We talk sports. We don't follow a format. Sometimes we say bad words. So if that's not for you, if there's kids around, or if you're in a work environment, please put on earbuds or come back at some other time. We talk a lot of Cleveland sports, and that's where we start today. If you've listened before, we do a baseball minute. That is about how long the Indians hung around the postseason, Dre. So let's just start right there. I don't think, and you know a lot better than I do, I don't think there's a deep science to it. They didn't play very well. They played a good team. That's a bad combo. There were reasons to think it could have been different, have better expectations, but I don't think there's some underlying thing here, right?
No,
you got to play well to beat the Astros. You didn't play well, and at the end, you end up getting your face rubbed in it.
Yeah, you get your ass kicked. I think that's the case to me in any situation, in any battle that you go up against. You go up against someone really good, and you go in and you're not. And you don't play up to the standard that they play at, you get your nose rubbed in it. But I think that's quite clear how sports work. I believe I texted the most infamous text messaging chain in Northeast Ohio 3 months ago, and I think Pete asked me, he goes, "What can they really do?" And I'm pretty sure my answer came true. I said, "What are two things is going to happen? They're going to get swept, or they're going to win the World Series." And unfortunately, I was right. With the first thing, I just think this team. I think teams, and look, I'm partial to this because I work around it. I'm around it every freaking day. Staying partial is part of the job that can be difficult at times. But I think most of the times, if you read between the lines and you really pay attention, we tell you the truth. But I think when you're around a team daily, you want the best for them. You want to see them do it because you know that there are glimpses that they can do it. But I was pretty straightforward with you and with others that I wouldn't be surprised if this team got swept by a team like Houston, because that throughout the year, they showed us a team that was constantly inconsistent. They were consistently inconsistent. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah.
Their motivation at times. And I'm not putting this on – and the problem with where we're at nowadays, and I get it, and you guys have heard me about Hugh Jackson because I hate it because I don't like it. When a manager, coach, or a leader is incompetent, I'm all for saying he's incompetent. I don't think that's the case here. I know it's not the case with the Indians. I just think we've said this on this podcast before about other teams. Winning a championship is really bleeping hard. And I know that the way we tweet and the way that we put things up, when we blog or everything else, and you can play on your video game, and you've had 15 championships with your Madden team since 2008, and you know how to put a team together. That ain't reality. And in reality, it takes a lot of chemistry. It takes a lot of belief in one another. It takes help. I can tell you, someone pretty high up from the Indians told me in Game 2, when Andrew Miller came in the first couple pitches went the way they went, he basically texted me, "We can pack it up and forget about it if we're done." And we kind of had that feeling all along because of how and it's not just on Andrew Miller. Because, there's a myriad of things that we can talk about. But he was a main one, and they knew all year, if we don't get Andrew Miller right, our chances of winning are pretty slim. Because they knew they had to ride his arm. That's why Bauer was in the bullpen. They wanted, they were hoping Bauer could be that magic dust that Andrew Miller was in 16, because they knew Miller probably wasn't going to be Miller. Why? We never saw him that way. He was hurt all year. Like, I remember I said something to Matt Underwood, and these are things I chalk away, and I can say them out loud now. But I can remember, the third week of spring training. It was, the first week I got to Arizona. And I remember we were going over injuries. We were just BSing with Tito. And flippantly, somebody was like, "Hey, man, when are we going to see Cody Allen and Andrew Miller in a game?" And Tito was like, they're working on stuff on the backfield. They know how to get ready for the season. And I have a piece of paper where I marked that down, and I just put next to it, curious. I put, very curious. And if I find it, I can tell you the date. And I would go back to that page like once a month, and it was curious. And I guess what I'm really saying for all those that are so pissed off, Tito knew all the way back in March. he knew that and I'm not, this is my opinion, and having conversations with him and taking what he says on the record and taking what he said off the record, Zach, and being able to have that type, he knew that if the bullpen wasn't right, they couldn't beat these teams. And I'm going to be honest with you, and this is because it's a fresh wound, and this is the first time I'm taking the Band-Aid off, and it's only been a couple of days. It's going to be hard to beat the Houston Astros in the next 2-3 years.
Sure.
If they're healthy, they got a machine, boys and girls. And God bless them. Good for them. They've done it the way that they've done it. They drafted very well. They cultivated the talent very well. They pushed the envelope like no one else. Some would say cheating. They've got some Bill Belichick to them, to how they do things. And that's totally my opinion. I've just seen things and been around things that I just don't see done at other ballparks. It's very reminiscent of going to Minute Maid Park. It's just like going to Gillette. I've done both. I've been in the opposing clubhouses of both now. And I can tell you, when the Browns walked out of Gillette Stadium before the game, I've told the story where Willie McGinnis ran back in and was like, erase everything on that board that you have, because they will take pictures of it and they will get it to Bill Belichick. You have that same type of feeling when in Minute Maid Park, that you're always being watched, you're always being paid attention to, hey man, that's sports, right? I'm not, it's just, they push the envelope is all that I will say. And I think a lot of players' quotes post the last game were really saying things like that. And most reporters weren't privy enough to have the information to know what they were really saying. And they went and ran and wrote stuff that they probably didn't realize they were writing. But I think that happens. And I think the Indians, and God bless them, the Indians did the right thing by not, in my opinion, and you don't want to come off as a sore loser. And that's what it comes off of after you lose and you accuse someone of that, right? But they do things a little differently. And in due time, I think people will hear about some of the things that they do. And like I said, I read a lot of articles that I think people thought they knew what they were writing about, but I don't think they truly know yet. I'll leave it at that. But otherwise, Houston's really good, and I expect to see them to win the World Series. It was a fun season, but it wasn't the season anybody wanted. And is that because you didn't get pushed at all? I think that's the greatest conversation. I think if I'm the Indians, and then I'll stop after this. If I'm the Indians, obviously you got to figure out how to fix your bullpen. You need 3 or 4 young arms. You need some explosive arms. The Astros didn't come out of the bullpen with anybody throwing under 95 miles an hour. They had 3 guys in their bullpen that helped them win a World Series last year that weren't even fucking active for these playoffs. That would have all pitched in our bullpen. If they don't fix the bullpen and find some young, active, crazy arms, it's going to be an uphill battle. I don't know how you get there. That's a conversation that they all have to have. Do you trade a starter? Do you just go out and pay $30 million for 2 guys? That's their range. They've got to figure that out. But here's the thing that I would really look at and try to figure out. The AL Central is going to suck again in 2019, probably 2020. With health, the Indians are going to could win 5 divisions in a row. I truly believe that. But they've got to ask themselves, how do they keep their team motivated and to push themselves to be great April through September if they're not pushed by another team?
Sure.
How does Alabama put? And this is football. How does Alabama push themselves? Through 80% of their schedule. She doesn't even bring up college sports because college sports are different because
Alabama hasn't punted in 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But theirs is different because kids are going to play hard because they want to make money and they want to go to the NFL and they want to drive a bigger car than they drive around Tuscaloosa. I guess what I'm saying is, and I don't blame anybody about this because we're all human beings, but I do think the Indians as an organization have to say, okay, kicking everybody's ass in the Central is nice. We get a little flag for it. We get to celebrate. But how do we push ourselves? Like Houston, and I know from talking to Astros people, they felt like Seattle pushing them in the first half of the season and then Oakland pushing them basically to the last week and a half of the season made them hungry again, pushed them, and got rid of that lethargic feeling.
Yeah.
The Yankees and Red Sox do it. And like I said, I'm not making an excuse. This is just reality. The Indians went to spring training and knew that they won the division unless something crazy happened. Most likely, they're going to walk into spring training in a couple months, and the division is theirs unless something super crazy happens. They got to find a way, and maybe it's getting their ass kicked like this and walking away with the feeling that they had. You never know. But they got to find a way to go balls to the wall and kick everybody's ass and then figure it out in the playoffs. And I don't think they thought they could have a switch. But I think the natural feeling as a human being was, we're good. We got this Division One. We'll take it up another level when it's time to do it. One guy did it. Hell, four guys did it. Francisco Lindor and the three guys that started in the games, I thought, did their jobs. The rest was, all these three games are pretty much the same until the bullpens got involved, right?
Yeah. A little bit of different ebb and flow and feel, but sure. Okay.
Right.
You're right. Look, no would it be a surprise if the Astros win back-to-back and they're loaded, okay? But the problem is the Indians are good enough to be a championship or bust team, right? And we talk about, in all sports, different expectations and where you are, how you gauge success, how you push along, especially as these seasons get longer, because baseball, just like the NBA, has decided to make the season even longer, right, which I don't necessarily agree with, playing the same amount of games. So especially when you relate it to going back 7 months now, because I think we're in October. I never know what day of the week it actually is, but March is the third month, I think, that something is missing. Like, you're right, you don't need to have the answers aren't yours, and you don't need to have any answers 48 hours after your season ended. But that seems to be something that needs to be addressed, because you're not going to boot all these players and get out of the championship or bust mode, right? Obviously there's going to be natural turnover, and I guess what I'm asking is what level of shakeup otherwise do you think needs to happen to not only for that hunger that needs to be there, but because you have to be better to beat the Astros or to even compete with them, because they really didn't.
Well, chemistry is huge, and I know people and people laugh at this and people change this. There's a reason why Mike Napoli was thought of by the way he was thought of. It wasn't about hitting home runs. It wasn't about his cool beard. It wasn't about the cool party T-shirts that everybody made their money off of. It was because he walked in the room and people stopped and respected him. Same thing with Jason Giambi that got this thing rolling. I don't care how great your manager is. I don't care how great your facility is. I don't care how many Cy Young awards you have. If your chemistry, if you don't have that one person that stirs the drink in a baseball clubhouse because of how long the season is, that makes everybody turn the right way, then it becomes difficult. I'm not saying you got to like each other, but to be led by to have one guy that can lead 25 guys, like, yeah, sure, Corey Kluber, hey man, motivates the hell out of the other starting pitchers. He's not a loud rah guy. He goes out and works like nobody's business every single day. And you know what that's turned out? That's turned to give the Indians one of the best rotations in baseball for the last 2 years. You got every guy that's in the rotation that they try to mark themselves to what Corey Kluber does. But in a clubhouse, a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher can't be your leader, in my opinion. They can lead their section. You know, it's like Phil Dawson. Phil Dawson, one of the best, and I know he's had his struggles or whatever else, but Phil Dawson was a great leader to Josh Cribbs when they played together, right? Because that was the special teams room was theirs, and they pushed each other to excellence. I compare that to what Kluber has done with their pitching staff. The starters, they work their ass off. They watch each other start in between starts. They help each other. They go over tape together. They fix things. They've got a great thing going. They do. But the everyday player is so different in baseball. And I've seen Napoli do it. I've seen Giambi do it. And without putting anybody down, because it's not putting anybody down. I think there's a ton of different leaders. Because there's got, and baseball's hard because everyone is from such different parts of the world. And not everybody, half these guys can't even converse with each other like we're conversing. So that's why Mike Napoli was a treasure. Because he made Jose Ramirez try to speak English out loud. He made him play cards every day. He made him hang out with the white dudes. And I'm not. That's just like in a clubhouse.
No, it makes perfect
sense.
Come up, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think everybody gets that. It's like, yeah, you see them at 7 o'clock, come out and do everything else, but in the sense of living, clubhouses and airplane rides on a baseball team are much like 8th grade. Everybody sits with who they're comfortable with. Everybody sits and talks to who they're comfortable with, and you can't blame them. Like that. Like that's would you go sit with somebody you can only say 6 words with, or would you go sit with somebody that understands where you're from and you can have a whole conversation with? I'm not saying you can't overcome these things. Just in being around it and knowing these guys, they got to find a bona fide leader that there's no that no one says, oh, that's that guy's guy. That everyone just looks at and says, I want to roll with that guy.
Makes sense.
And usually it is a veteran, and I think that's what that's what I would say they need. And having this conversation, they've got to find a guy that brings the message every day. That's not a manager. That's not a coach. That is one of them. And if he can still play a little bit, that helps. But somebody with a resume that the whole room respects is what I would try to find. And those guys are like, they're not easy to find. Like those guys aren't easy. So that's what I would look for.
Sounds a little like why LeBron has to play with a new group every year, right?
Yeah.
Some guys want to buy in. Everybody has their own drum. Some get so tired of his drum, right?
Right.
Yeah. Listen, in the bullpen is the biggest thing. And the Indians were good enough, talent-wise, hitting-wise when they hit, although I don't think this team hit like the last 2 teams, right?
No, they hit together. This plays into what I'm saying. When everything was great, these dudes hit like it was nobody's business. But when they got down 1 or 2 runs, everybody tried to save the game themselves.
Yeah.
And that's bad baseball.
And Ramirez had a year for the ages, but didn't hit it all the last 2 months, right? So that's...
Didn't hit it all.
Yeah.
And it's sad. But you know what? That's him, though. Like his first 2 times he got called up, it hit me the other day. That reminded me of the Jose from 3 years ago before people knew who Jose was, where he would just keep popping up, and everybody would be like, damn, man, you can run. Slap the fucking ball on the ground and the other way and run. That's what you used to do to get here. He's one of those guys that's hard-headed to the end. I don't know if he was I said something a couple podcasts ago, and only a couple people picked up on it. I know he was banged up around All-Star break. I won't say where, what, and how, but I just know he wasn't, things were hurting a little bit at one time. And who doesn't? Every player goes through stuff. But that is Jose's MO. And if you know him, he is hard-headed to the end. And I get this because I got the same trait. He will bang away at a tree until the tree, doesn't fall over. And finally somebody says, hey man, all you got to do is hit the other side and it'll fall off. He's one of those. He's a bunch guy. He can hit 600 for 8 weeks, and he can hit 150 for 6 weeks. Hopefully they find a way to get him out of these patterns when he gets in them, and obviously beats himself up mentally so bad that he can't get out of the physical stuff. I mean, it's the best trait about him. It's why he's here. But I think that trait also hurt him this year as well, in my opinion.
All right, last baseball thing. Mostly because there's only so much that can be said because they got dominated. It's not like they got beat in the 5th game, right? Or because of one guy stunk.
Right. I mean, hey, Houston's really. I keep going back.
No doubt.
Because
I'm just saying.
I always say it because I see so many people that like Goldhammer question, and even Emmett, they question Tito. Like, man, Tito has known issues about this team longer than you got. Like, he knew in February. That's why I told the story of writing down, the Cody Allen and the Miller thing. Tito knew. He's aware. There's only so much you can do, though, with the roster that you have. And if the management says, we can't afford to go get another this or that, what is he supposed to do? And, like that, to me, it's like, it's the same, and we'll get into it with Hugh Jackson. And I know everybody doesn't agree with me, but ownership has picked that guy to lead the team. The team's playing hard. Get off his ass. And it's like, hey, when a coach isn't up to par, I have no problem saying it. None. But I think a lot of people just like, it's so elementary. Oh, the team didn't win. Fire this guy. It's not a video game. And it just dumbs down the conversations that I hear on radio that make me turn away from it.
Okay. So, from 24 months ago to 6 months ago, it was like, okay, the Indians have these two guys, and Cody Allen and Andrew Miller, who are unique and who've been successful, and they're not going to be able to keep them after 18, right? And then they both go out, and for different reasons, they have bad years, especially in the case of Miller, because he's so unique, because he's so tall and was so dominant.
Right.
Is there a chance, Dre, that either one of those guys comes back just because the Indians know them better and the way that it went for them, like the money that they were counting, and hopefully they weren't counting it, isn't going to be there because chance that, Andrew's body is broken down or that Cody's 15 minutes are up?
Hard to touch on either one of those because, it's the beauty of the trade. I'll start with Miller. Miller's whole career wasn't what we saw in 16. Miller's had a lot of ups and downs in his career. There's a lot of baseball seasons you can go to they'll say, hey, Andrew Miller was horrible as a starter. He had a 5-point-something ERA as a starter. I'm not saying he caught lightning because he obviously is talented, but with that height and just how he throws and what he throws, everything's got to be clicking just right. Hopefully, I know him and his wife bought a house in Northeast Ohio. I won't say where. He's one of the most down-to-earth athletes I've ever dealt with. He is a great human being. He goes out of his way not to make the story about him in any point in time. And when he screws up, he's a man enough to get right in front of everybody and say, I screwed this all up like he did after game 2. He's a man's man. I would love for the Indians to find a way to bring him back. I think it would be huge for the Indians, and it was huge for the organization if they could bring him back. But I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know if he's ever going to be healthy or ever be the guy we saw in 16 again.
Well, right.
So I think it would take a huge leap of faith from both sides.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is maybe does he sign a 1-year prove-it deal because anybody else?
Well, I'm getting to that. It just depends on what other teams see.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're getting at, and I know, and trust me, in the back of my mind, what I'm saying is I kind of feel about Josh Donaldson too. You hope that because all it takes is one team though to sell Andrew Miller. Hey, we can fix you. We'll get it right. Here's $20 million. Well, buy Andrew Miller. But if no one does that, and the Indians can have real conversations with him and not have a conversation with an agent and really just talk to Miller, there's a chance you get him back. And I think you take that risk because of the talent level that you can get if he's healthy. But he's had so many different nagging injuries since 16. It's going to be tough. Cody, I like a lot. I just think that the bullets may have ran out. So I don't know. I feel bad for him because he's another really good dude. But he tries so damn hard to get back things he used to have this year, and it just didn't happen. And you're asking me this 48 hours after it all stops. But until he can get back to throwing 95 and having consistency with his delivery, I probably will pass. The Donaldson situation, because he didn't show a lot, he did show that he'll work his ass off, but on the field it just wasn't there. And it's unfair to think that everything was going to be there for him anyway. He missed 5 months of the season. Let's be realistic. But I hope no one wants to give him money. I hope everybody thinks he's past his prime and he comes back to the Indians. The Indians can give him $20 million for a year or something crazy and let him try again with us because I know a lot around the league. A lot of people think he's crazy. He might be crazy a little bit, but I think he could be, maybe if he was around a little longer and he start playing the way he used to play, he could be a spark plug in the clubhouse that could help.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think, obviously, even though you don't start making these moves for a while, and we know the Indians aren't going to be on the AA list free agent guys, I think the clubhouse, the decisions that are made are going to have to be made with the clubhouse in mind, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
How can it be a little bit different and a little bit hungrier? And we're still, it's fine to still need some things to go your way to beat the Astros. Shit.
Hey, well,
I don't know these ages, Dre, but, the Astros core, the pitchers are older. But that lineup,
right.
It's a young lineup, right, across the board?
It's a young lineup. Altuve's older, but when you talk about Springer, Bregman has become one of the best players in the game.
Right.
Bregman and Jose have a lot in common. And Bregman has gone through periods of times like Jose's. But when he's hot, holy shit.
Well, you can't get him out right now. Right.
Right. And we've seen Jose, he is amazing. I'll give you, and that's the thing. Trevor Bauer and Clevenger. Look, Trevor Bauer works out with Bregman in the offseason. Trevor Bauer owns Alex Bregman bats that he broke when he pitches against him in the offseason. Like there is a relationship there that I would love to do more on, and I might in the off season. But I'm telling you, man, Bregman it was disgusting. But yeah, when you look at him, Correa, who's been hurt, they're just as young, but they're just as young as the three best hitters on the Indians team. You know what I mean? But like you said, the veteran pitchers, they've got the right mix. Marwin Gonzalez is a nobody, and I'm not putting him down, and he dominated us. Their other guys killed more than the big guys, other than Bregman, to me. Marwin Gonzalez had 6-7 hits. You said something that I kind of agree with, and we can move on. And it reminded me of like the Cavs before you kids were even around, and the real Larry Nance Shit Your Pants was playing for them. And people used to say, man, the Cavs might be the nicest good team we've ever seen. And I remember my dad and like his friends saying, ain't nothing wrong with having an asshole or two in the club, in the locker room. I think if I'm Chris, and this is just my opinion, Indians it may be okay to have an asshole or two in their clubhouse that doesn't mind pissing off his teammates sometimes and telling them the truth.
Well, some sort of shakeup is obvious, and that is necessary is obvious. That's easy for us to say who are outside. It's why your insight is appreciated. It's all couched by the fact that obviously nobody really has the answers because you're 0-6 in your last 6 playoff games, right? Because the Astros are moving on, and you're a championship or bust team that's clearly not there.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, in the last 6 playoff games. I don't think they have anything to do with the other. 2 completely different teams, 2 completely different situations. I know we write about it, and I know it's happened, but the team that lost the last 3 games in the World Series in 16, not the team that lost the last 3 games versus the Yankees in 17, and the team in 18. There is nothing that's the same about them but a couple players. They're completely different teams. I get that people write that, and I get that people get caught up in that, and I get that's how we look at life, but that ain't it. Like, it's not. It's just not, because that's not how – that's as a player – and there's been so many days in between, and I'm not going at you about it, but I've seen that said. It's not the same. Like, it's just not. Like, it's not the players, it's not the team. You really think Edwin gives a shit about what happened in the World Series in 16 with the Indians?
I know the details aren't the same, but it's at least a little bit of you are what your record says you are situation.
Yeah, okay. Sure. But it's not. Like, I think, but see, when I hear that, fans think that's how players go about it. But it's not. That's not even discussed.
No, it has not. You're right. It has nothing to do with the next pitch thrown, right?
Right. Well, you think the Astros are going to say anything about what they did to Boston last year in the playoffs? Because it's got nothing to do with what they got to do now. They won the World Series last year. Great. That gives them no strikes, gives them no outs when they play that first game versus Boston on Saturday.
Sure. But right now, their record in their last X amount of playoff games is pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
Right.
It is.
Right.
And that won't do anything for them, and that does nothing for them going into the next series. Makes them feel good about themselves. But
sure. No, the experience matters. No doubt. It's not an easy spot to be in, and we saw this with the Cavs. You've seen it with every other NBA team that is tired of Golden State winning every year. You see it with every AFC team that's tired of the Patriots being there every year. Like, when you get in that championship or bust window, that means you've done a lot to get there, right? You've done a lot talent-wise, chemistry-wise, accomplishment-wise, record-wise. And it's not easy to get to that next step, right? And it is transition to talk about the other team now in October that's got some momentum and some good vibes for the first time in a while. Like, the next step is the toughest one. There's no doubt. Any sport, Absolutely. Any level, right? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, we could go on and on about the Indians, and I'm sure we'll bring it back up, and I would love to have Zach Meisel or someone else on and talk about it later, because I know – look, the reason fans are going to fume for a while, the reason people aren't just going to be over this tomorrow, is because this has been a good team. This has been a great run, and it ended with a thud. It just sucks, right? I mean, there's a hangover.
Right.
There just
right.
is.
Losing sucks.
Yeah.
No doubt. Losing sucks. And you get involved in a team like that for 5 months. No matter if you're at my job or if you're a fan, or if you're my wife or if there's you, like, there's ways you look at it because it's your team you're pulling for. They can overcome this. And I think for anybody that's close to it like that, because there are fans that are close enough that can see the truth, Like, I got guys that send me DMs all the time that I'll say, yeah, I see the same thing. I know that Zach McAllister only throws a fastball and guys crush it 450 feet. Yeah, we got that. We see that. It's a heartbreak. Breakups are bad, man. Goodbyes suck. And as Tito said a couple of years ago, man, the greatest thing about baseball is you go 120 miles an hour. And, protect it. But he says your whole life from April 1 until the end of the season, you're going 125 miles an hour with 25, 30 of the guys that you love the most and you do everything with. And then out of nowhere, the day just comes and everything's over and stops. It stops abruptly. This one stopped it way more abruptly than any of us were ready for. So, yes, being pissed off is understandable.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Let's talk a little Browns. I know we both only have a certain amount of time here. That was a really good win against the Ravens for a lot of reasons. The good vibes reasons and the accidental heroes reasons and the quarterback growing up. The Ravens were in charge of that game early. The Browns made some plays. The Ravens got a little greedy. The Browns hung around. They put together a really impressive drive. I think over the course of the game, even though it was his biggest challenge, Baker made a couple of throws that were out of this world. Obviously made a couple of other plays that were really good and really mandatory. And they just, a tie would have been okay.
Listen to what you just said.
Yeah, it really would have been. But for the defense to pick the offense up, and for him to get that experience, and this is still an evolving team, an evolving offense. They're playing with a lot of confidence. And so obviously you're in it. You're in a season. It's way too early to talk about what might be. But you looked at it, Dre. You had the Ravens and the Chargers coming to town. And two things about those teams. Both represented a huge step up from playing the shitty Jets and the shitty Raiders. And you needed to get at least one of them, right? Or things were going to be really bad. Well, you got the first one, which gives you a bonus game. And now you're able to look and say, hey, we'll see what happens this week. Great challenge, Phil Rivers, handling success, all of these things. But you look and you're like, well, we have to get Tampa. They suck. Like you see a team that's winning, that's growing.
But you can't do that.
Well, I know.
You can't do that.
They can't do that. I can. Right?
Oh, yeah, you can. But
so
when I hear you say that, I hear fans say that. And I'm like, no.
Well, I would just say this. I would just say this. And this is a shout-out to a lot of you guys that interact with us on Twitter and have listened for a long time. All of a sudden, there's a lot less fucking PFF arguments. There's a lot less blaming Mary Kay. There's a lot less arguing about what about, and you're looking at who you play, right? You're talking about certain plays, good and bad, and you're not – yes, some people are still insistent on throwing out these advanced stats, and I know sometimes they help tell the story. But the bottom line is I don't need any spreadsheets or any rankings to see a defense that causes multiple sacks and multiple turnovers in every game, and that's how you give yourself a chance. And then when you have an actual breathing offense to back that up, that's how you win football games. And every Sunday, before I throw it to you on this, I will say this. The Browns have 11 games left. Right, because they've played 5. We know how that 5-11 song goes. We know how the 5-11 goes.
You got a spreadsheet for that?
I look at these 11 games against 10 different opponents because they still play the Bengals twice, and the Browns can win every one of these games. Now they can also lose every one of these games, but I've said like number one goal: living, breathing NFL, competitive. These games are out of this world. They're the first team in 15 years to play 3 overtimes in the first 5 games. They're as close to 5-0 as they are to 0-5. They're right in the middle of that. People are excited about going to the stadium on Sunday. You're excited about the overall direction. Like, there's some real progress here and some real excitement for these next few Sundays, and that is an amazing turnaround.
Absolutely. They got a real NFL team, man. They got a real NFL team. They're allowed back at the big table at Thanksgiving.
Yes.
That don't mean you get to go to the head of the table, but they allowed to eat turkey and they allowed to cut it up and chop it up with the rest of the big boys, and they don't got to sit at the little kiddie table anymore. And that is a huge, huge step from where things have been for the last.
And next year they might play on Thanksgiving. Yes.
Right. Is it perfect? No, but damn, it's fun. And I'll say this about the Baltimore game. And to me, this is one of the biggest strides that they've made. they very easily could have lost that game. I think all of us could have walked away from the stadium on Sunday and been like, Baltimore's Baltimore. We didn't take advantage of. I mean, they didn't take advantage of. They let them hang around. But I'm saying the Browns should have blew them out, in my opinion, early on. When you consider turnovers and when plays were made and how bad Flacco was most of the game, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, you got to score touchdowns at these certain points. You got to do this because you don't want that team Flacco to have one last drive. Flacco's one of those guys. He's the dude you don't worry about until 2 a.m. and you realize he's 6'3", he's got dark hair, and with a couple drinks, he may make your girl like him. But the rest of the night, he's a big dork. He's a tall dork that can barely find his keys and chew bubble gum at the same time. That's him, though, right? He's won a Super Bowl. Like he's got enough arm, enough talent that he can make a play or two that just makes you hate him. But otherwise, you really don't got to worry about him. Probably he'll throw it to you and cough it up to you if you play your game right. The Browns hadn't played their game right up into the fourth quarter. You know, I'm like, there's no way this game should be this way. And so many times for all of us, we've gotten to that fourth quarter and they blow it. And for whatever reason, they give up a long play. There's a penalty. The field goal kicker mixes the kick. like I can go through the litany of things we've seen. A guy throws his helmet off last play of the game and the flag goes up. None of that crap happened.
Yeah.
Right? None of that happened, and they hung on. And they fought, and I agree with you, Zach. I, at some point in the middle of the overtime, was like, man, if they tie this game, I'm not going to give them shit for it. Like, can you – like, in 5 weeks, I would have been okay with not okay with it. But because of where they're at and how they're playing, I'm like, you know what? They played their ass off. I just don't want them to lose this game. And after one of the worst play calls, because he calls bad plays at times, it's just what Haley does. Haley has done two things for the offense. He's done more than two. But the things that jump out to me, he's starting to give it an identity. He is running the football enough, and he's finding a way to give them a tough exterior by how they run the ball. I applaud that. I love that. Run it some more. He's also shown the ability to call some of the worst play calls I've seen since I've taught my 9-year-old nephew how to play Madden football. Like running a reverse into the back of your end zone in overtime is one of the most, that is one of the most ignorant play calls I've ever seen.
Right.
And let me come to the side and let me do something.
I would say
I'm not going to wear his underwear. I'm not going to wait. I got to do something. I'm not going to wear his underwear with his face on my Johnson.
Oh, okay.
I find that to be a little weird. And some of you guys y'all ain't never been in love with a quarterback, so y'all know how to act. But damn, Baker Mayfield, you made that overtime drive feel like I said, the Browns are now allowed to sit at the table with everybody else at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no.
That throw he made into his end zone showed me, because there's a difference between having balls and being ballsy. It takes balls to drop back in the end zone, but it's ballsy to throw that ball that he threw and the way he threw it and the way he avoided Terrell Suggs. That, to me, he's not perfect. He's going to make mistakes. He does stare down some receivers at times. He's a young quarterback that's got a great arm, but sometimes and this is fine. This is something that can be broken. Sometimes he believes the strength of his arm and the strength of what he sees can overcome. He can overcome it. And sometimes you can't. You got to learn that. That's like a kid learning how to drive at 16. It's just like anything else. He has to overcome some of that. But the balls he showed to throw that ball, and what was it, second 19, third, like that. There's a couple plays last week where I'm like, okay, he's not perfect, but he can lead the team. He can lead a team right now, and it's fun to watch. So I'm not ready to buy underwear and put his face on my Johnson. I'll never do that. But I appreciate the work that he's doing so far.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're nitpicking him, right, and the other guys. That's progress.
Right.
You're looking at some guys that need to be better. So there's some expectations there. You're looking at some things that can get better. So there's some excitement there. There's some decisions that need to be made on the kicker. Do you think you're good enough to go get a veteran receiver? Whether it's one of the wackos that's available or it's a trade in a few weeks. I mean,
one of the wackos.
I would say all of those things are out there, and the fact that you feel like you found your quarterback going forward, and that he's doing mostly good and great in a couple areas right now as he learns is really good. And I'll tell you what else is exciting. I mean, Ogunjobi and Garrett have both been awesome. And
Yeah.
talking to Dustin, who's been down on the sideline the last couple games, just gushing about what he sees, how Garrett gets double-teamed all the time, or how the offense pre-snap is looking for him. But you know what makes that all that more exciting is fucking Denzel Ward has so much talent. It oozes out his fingernails. He's 21 and a half years old, not even. He is on this 3-year burst from almost nowhere, from a 3-star recruit. He's just figuring it out. Guys, anywhere outside of high school football, and even in high-level high school football, you don't block field goals off the edge because it's almost humanly impossible. And this dude's out here doing it.
It's the timing of it. Yeah,
exactly. You have to time it. You have to reach it. Then you have to time your jump again. You have to see it. It's just like the one-handed interception that he made. So much of interceptions and turnovers in the NFL is luck, even if you're in the right spot, right? Because where did the ball go? Did it hit someone's cleat? Did it hit someone's face mask?
Anticipation.
Did it spin the wrong way? Like, to actually secure it, both fumbles and interceptions, it so much is luck. But when you are that instinctual and athletic, like, the luck goes your way more than not, because he's just that freaking gifted. He is.
He has a chance to be one of the best.
No doubt.
He has a chance to be one of the best. And if you're a Browns fan, that's the most that should get you charged up more than anything else. Now he's got to stay healthy, but Zach hit on it. The way there's a lot of guys that see plays happen, and I see this in baseball too. The games go so fast on the pro level, whether it be NBA, Major League Baseball, or NFL, that all of us can see things. And some of us see a little bit more than the other. But the greatest can see it as it's happening, before it happens, and be there. It's like LeBron blocking a shot. Denzel Ward has that sixth sense. Baker Mayfield has that sixth sense at times in some of the throws he has. But it's different with Denzel, because Denzel has top-of-the-line athletic ability to go with this ability to see it happen. I'll say one thing to you. I don't watch nearly as much high school football as even you. But I got to see Denzel's last 2 games in high school. I don't see enough of I can't say anything about anything else. But I don't know how a real big-time scout could have gone on the field Denzel Ward was on at Nordonia. Because I saw his last 2 games in high school, and and he played with a bunch of white kids and playing. And no offense to anybody, I can say this. I say it about LeBron. LeBron was on a football field with nothing but 5'8" white kids, and it was like, okay, this dude shouldn't be out there with these dudes.
Right.
Denzel was the same way, even though he's only 5'11". And they didn't even use he wasn't like the normal high school. And this is what I love about him. He wasn't the normal high school the best athlete on the team that played running back or quarterback, and that he played corner and just dominated his side. Then he played a little receiver, and he returned kicks. Like, he wasn't even an offensive quote unquote weapon, but it was obvious he was the best athlete on the field.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they do starring. I think his dad, who's no longer here, was a great influence. If you know anything about him as a man, I got to know him because I was helping out the Bedford football team for a little while with players and things of that nature. He comes from great people, and he has unbelievable God-given talent. And I just gotta hope he stays talented. He stays healthy, because he's fun to watch.
I would say this, I'm not going to get into the standings, although we know that the Browns are right there, right? And we know all 4 teams in this division are flawed but have shown flashes of greatness. And the Browns don't have a pedigree of greatness, but the fucking defense has been so good, and they just beat the Ravens. So finally you can make outrageous claims and have some evidence to back them up. Right?
Right.
But I would just say this for the next 3 games, and this win or lose this Sunday, or like I said, Tampa, and you tried to stop me and whatever else. The next 3 games are both important for the overall growth of the team, which is at least a year away, and you guys can kill me on that. I'd love to be wrong about that, but I'm not. And they're must-see TV, whether you're a casual fan or not, because this team is showing real signs, and guys are doing real things. And the shit's contagious, bro. Because
the shit's contagious.
Because the less pressure that you're fearless, the quarterback is fearless, but the less pressure that he has where he has to make plays, the better off that guys are. And you're going to see over the next few weeks, Melvin Ingram and Phil Rivers and Mike Evans and Antonio Brown and guys that have done it for so long and make it look easy. And the Browns have guys, and we just went over who most of them are, who are starting to do it, right? and actually back it up. And so you measure up, and then the team grows, and we'll see what happens. I think as far as where they are, as I've said before, with the coaches and the coordinators and all that, that's going to reveal itself by Thanksgiving and after. But right now, the last 3 games in October, must-see TV and enjoy the shit out of it. That's what I got to say.
The reason I stopped you about the Tampa Bay thing, and I just do this about NFL period. You know this, dude. You did it the right way by saying some players. But there ain't no telling who's showing up week in and week out. The one thing the Browns have, and they did do in October, or September rather, through the period that we're in. What is it, October 10th? I don't know what day it is either. I won't know until Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. It's October 10th. Happy birthday, Sarah Shookman. Go ahead.
Hey, Sarah Shookman will be at the Rec to Connect Foundation, that's coming up on November 10th. She texts me after a message was sent by Dion off of Twitter, asking how she didn't make the list of bartenders. Sarah Shookman will be in the house November 10th. Glad you brought that.
Come on out, you fucking creeps. We'll see you then.
And the short haircut is the bomb. I've got some great stuff.
Speaking of rising stars for Summit County, Denzel Ward and Sarah Shookman.
Yes, sir. We get them all in. Speaking of the event, I got some cool stuff. I'm looking in a bag I shouldn't even say that because I know y'all. Well, nobody knows where I live but you. I've got a pair of Corey Kluber signed cleats, and I know it's the wound is still fresh. But how many times in an auction can you get Corey Kluber cleats, game used, signed? I got some Mike Clevengers as well. We got some cool stuff that hopefully can make a lot of money for kids in need, especially with special needs, that can help them and their families out. November 10th, go to rectoconnect.net or .org. One of those.
How about this, Dre? All that'll be at facebook.com/A to Z podcast. We'll tweet it periodically. We'll put it on our Instagrams too, but all that'll be at facebook.com/A to Z podcast, where we'll put the Rec to Connect event information with everything else.
Sarah Shookman in the house. All right, last thing, and I'll get out of your way. The only reason I was saying that, and this is why I give the coaching staff a lot of credit, and maybe it's easy right now because they're hungry to not be what they've been. They are must-see TV. They've played their asses off, and they've played hard, Zach, in every single game. We've had the Tampa Bay coach come out after they were blistered, after they beat Pittsburgh, basically saying everybody needs to be fired, including himself. Tampa Bay, a lot of teams in the NFL, for whatever reason, don't show up every week. That's why I keep saying, just be excited about 1 o'clock this Sunday. You cannot, in my mind, there's only 3 or 4 teams in the NFL and right now the Rams is one of them, and I love how they're playing. There's only so many teams that actually come and play hard. I shouldn't say play hard, but they bring it every single week. The Browns have done that, man, and that's better than what their record states. That's better than tying. They've brought it, and that's why you're calling them must-see TV. All these other teams haven't. I've watched them. The Raiders did not bring it last week. The Lions bring it every 2 weeks when their coach wants to show everybody he's a great defensive wizard. Minnesota doesn't know their left from their right now, and I think their head coach is great. The Cowboys should be playing. They shouldn't be playing on Thanksgiving because they only have 2 real NFL. They got one real offensive. They got 4 offensive players that are real.
This is what I'm saying.
Their defense
is I look around the league. What I'm saying is I think the Browns are way better than the Cowboys and the Bucks and the Raiders and the Colts of the world. I'm saying you got to win these games to legitimize that, right? You went out to Oakland and you got beat. It was some fucked up circumstances, but you didn't get the job
done. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter if you're a good team or not. That's why the Browns can be at the big table. Every team, for the most part, is good. For the most part, they have good players. Now, there's some teams that are – and Sashi Brown did it here, where there weren't good players. There were just people in uniforms. It just how do they show up each and every week? And I'm telling you, in this league, there's about 8 teams every week that make you scratch your head, right?
Yep. Hey, guys, thanks for listening. AmericanFireworks.com, Facebook.com/A to Z podcast, A to Z podcast.com. We're going to talk off the air about when we're going to do another one of these. It's Wednesday afternoon, I think, as we record. Dre, I'll see you Friday. Hopefully, either way, we'll talk about that. Thanks for listening. Hopefully, we'll have another one this week. If not, we'll have one on Sunday or Monday recapping a big game at First Energy Stadium. For Andre, I'm Zach. See you next time on A to Z.
Konnichiwa, Fantasy League.